And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. To spell that out, you will not be able to work in the United Kingdom.
My father did everything they told him to, lined up and took every single jab. And every time I'd beg him, Dad, please just think, he'd just laugh and call me crazy. We spread his ashes at his favorite park. I have to say I thought I was out of tears until his sister whispered into my ear, my love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to our weeping years. Tanya was a nurse working in the bush. She didn't want to take it herself, but because she loved the people out there, she decided to take a chance. Now she's going through a metamorphosis because Pfizer gave her multiple sclerosis. Now she lives with her mother in the city like a ghost, watching us all forget her. And while she is still too angry for tears, all I could hear in her burning eyes was her broken heart warning me, my love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to the weeping years. No one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. If vaccines are safe and effective, then you must be the thing that's wrong. You're not worthy of state recognition. You're not worthy of any compensation. Not even worthy of a human singing your song. She was 92 and dying in a nursing home, and because her family said no to the jabs, none of them were allowed to see her, so it was clear she would die alone. But then one of her older granddaughters took matters into her own hands. After dark, she would break into the home and sneak down the corridors like a thief. And while the cares were all watching TV, she would climb in bed and spoon her grandmother. She would get into her grandmother's foot and spoon. And even now I can see them there, huddled together like babes lost in the woods, as we in our endless madness, hurricanes around them, as our madness hurricanes. Oh, can't you hear our gods whispering? If you guys don't find a way to conquer fear, then you're just gonna keep traveling down deeper into the weeping years. Deeper and deeper and deeper into the weeping years. No one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. Look around at all these tumultuous years, for lying has replaced the truth. And the one lie that they need to you to sell to your children is that their system cares for you.
You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
Okay, strap yourself in. The Wolstencroft is coming on. No one knows what's going to come out of this gentleman's mouth. and he's grooving tonight because he looks very sexy in the dark. Here he is. And let's go. And yeah, so okay. How are you?
Here we are.
B?
Yeah, very good. You know, I don't think we've done one of these shows since Charlie Kirk passed away. So
no, we haven't actually. I'm just going to hand my thing over.
You know, that was quite a shock, wasn't it? And
it was a real shock.
game changer.
Despair. What were your thoughts of it before we get into all the conspiracies? What are your thoughts of the fact that we've just lost this man? Because
well, I mean, you know, I mean, he was one of the nice guys. You know, I mean, there are all kinds of different personalities. You know, in whatever you call this movement, the freedom movement, the new right. You know, the Trump movement, the MAGA, whatever. You know, but he was definitely one of the nicer ones. You know, the way he would debate left wingers. You know, and he always had a sense of. You could see he was empathetic and he wanted to listen to their position. You know, he was always interested in maybe defeating them in debate, but, you know, he would listen. And, you know, I think one of the reasons that, you know, whatever power did kill him is that, you know, he was certainly getting through to people and he was certainly converting many young people over to, you know, some form, you know, I mean, many different types of, you know, as I said, the freedom movement, the new right, the Trump thing, you know, I mean, just conservative, Christian, you know what I mean, all this stuff. He was sort of representative of, you know, of all this kind of stuff. And, you know, he just seemed like a nice guy, you know. I mean, also, he's so young, 31. I mean, you know, can imagine dying, like, you know, we're 25 years older than him. So, you know, that's, you know, you cut off right in the midstream, mate, you know, and
look,
you know, I mean, look, obviously
31 years.
He was playing with dangerous, you know, powers, though. I mean, you know, you do have to realize that, you know, when you do this kind of thing, I mean, you know, you and I probably have to worry about it, but like at that level, when you know you're on the phone regularly to the president of the United States, you are in the firing line, and he quite literally was, obviously, and you know, so you know, we can go, as I said, if you want to talk the conspiracies, but
I just want to. I actually don't mind doing that. I just want to say though, because his videos have been played all the time now. You're seeing them everywhere on Twitter and TikTok, everywhere. And he has so much respect for the people that are giving hate to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, he certainly wasn't a hater in any sense of the word. And he was, you know, I think he was very erudite. I mean, I didn't agree with him on everything. And he was sort of heading in an interesting direction.
We don't agree on everything.
In a direction that was more like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and you know, he was sort of, you know, and who were friends of his. They were like a bit of a trio, you know, and you know, he was sort of, you know, a bit more, you know, center right, probably than they are, and you know, he was sort of heading in their direction and asking uncomfortable questions, and you know, I mean, it's all very strange, you know, what happened, and you know, shocking, but I think it's really. I've noticed that, you know, most people are against it. You know, there are a few people on my page who celebrated his death. There are a couple of people who are actually friends of mine who celebrated his death who I know, for whatever reason, don't like him and never liked him. And, you know, okay, you know, I didn't feel the need to cancel those people. I just kind of, you know, rolled my eyes. You know, I mean, I noticed there was a kind of movement from, you know, our kind of people, you know, wanting to cancel, you know, everybody. Now, I personally, I don't care if left wingers got cancelled over celebrating Charlie Kirk. I mean, because, you know, it's good for them to get a bit of a taste of cancel culture because, you know, they've been wielding it so ruthlessly the last 15 years, 10 or 15 years.
That was the joy.
I think it is good for them to get a bit of a hiding as well because they've been giving it to us, you know, and nothing like a bit of a taste of the stick, mate, to straighten them out. And
that was the joy. I actually don't think they should be cancelled either. I don't think, but for the initial ones to have them going, I've lost my job. What am I going to do? It's like, hey, welcome to the war, buddy.
Welcome to our world. You know, it's like suddenly we had
world.
Consequences. And you know, I mean, the fact that the left was, you know, so up in arms about, you know, the cancelling of Jimmy Kimmel for essentially 4 days. They were like there were articles in the Crikey like, is this a new form of McCarthyism? I was thinking, listen, you effing whatevers. This has been going on for 10 years. I mean, you know, a magazine like the Crikey has happily cancelled so many people. You know, the left has been cancelling people for at least 12, 13, 14 years. You know, I've been cancelled myself probably a couple of times. And, you know, it's like this you have as well, obviously. So, you know, it's like this new McCarthyism. You've been doing it. And then suddenly, you know, when it turns around and slaps one or two, you know, you're in a culture war that you created, basically. And suddenly that culture war is turning around and biting you on the ass. Well, that's the war. It's the world you've created, mate. If you didn't like it, you should have kept Charlie Kirk alive, one, and just have everybody just having a nice old chat, because we used to be able to go to dinner parties and talk about this. I used to get invited to everybody's dinner party, and I would be the arch right winger who would say, friendly things about various fascist dictators and everything, and they'd roll their eyes at me and think, "Oh, Richard, that lovable, he's a lovable character," and it was fine. I was able to do that probably until around 2014. I was able to do that, and some of the biggest film people in Melbourne and theatre and all this stuff. And then around the time of Donald Trump coming to power and running for office, they began to stop inviting me, because they were like, Richard's politics is suddenly back on the menu, which of course it is.
Now, don't take this as a homosexual comment. But
Okay.
those glasses look fabulous.
Oh, really? Thank you. Yes, there we go. I actually lost. I have this other good pair of black sunglasses, but I got these recently from a chemist of all places, and they seem to work. And obviously, we're not quite. I used to have 20/20 vision, and I guess maybe I lost that maybe by about 45.
Oh no, that's oh, I can't
Old
say.
age, mate.
Yes, no, I'll leave
Middle
that.
age. It's middle age, not old age. We're not old age.
I'll leave that joke aside. There's
We're young at
now.
heart.
First off, I want to talk about something completely different. I was
All
going
right.
to talk. Do you know? I've been trying to hold off on the conspiracy theories. I've been going, what if it actually is this young man who just decided to do it? What if?
Well, it's
what
possible. It's
actually
possible,
looks like
sure.
it? What if that's because no one puts that as a possibility? But what if it is?
Yeah, of
here's
course.
this guy said he was going to do it, and he did it, and everyone's like in shock.
Well,
But-
I mean, there's nothing a well-motivated white person can't do if they set their mind to it. And if that's kill Charlie Kirk, well, that's possible as well. So, it goes to prove that, people like that can change history. One of the things I always find hard about this thing is like, how do they set up the patsy? You know what I mean? Like, if they have a patsy, how do they set that person up?
Why is this
And,
young man going to destroy his own family because his family are destroyed? Destroy them, and have the death penalty. Why would he do that?
I know. It's very strange. It's very
That's
hard
my
to
holding off
work out.
point. Why would he agree to the death penalty? He's the death penalty. So what's the motivation for him?
Yeah. Well, look,
And even the other ones say, "Oh, Charlie's still alive," and going, "Well, what do you mean he's still alive? What's he going to do? This is a man who's actively outgiving. He's a charming extrovert. What's he going to? Where are you going to hide him? He's like 6'5". Where are you going to hide him for the rest of his life? As if he wouldn't be known. I mean, it's just bonkers.
Well, he must know he's going to be caught. I mean, I think there are just, as far as I can tell, there are people out there, and you probably, and this is why I think you can probably tell from, there are just dangerous people out there, or people with serious mental disorders who want to act out on it. And, whoever might be watching, our online activity can probably work that out. Now, I mean, they might enable somebody in the sense that they work out someone is planning something like this and allow it to happen, which means that, they have just sort of been complicit in the sense of standing down, or they can somehow, as I said, there's no reason this could not have been organic. In the sense
someone
that,
here's a question. Why would people be suicide bombers? Well, suicide bombers are there, you're gone, and you're going to go to and have all these virgins apparently in the afterlife. So they believe that. But this man is going to stay in jail for maybe 10, 15, 20 years or longer as they go through all the appeal process until finally they bump him off in that time. This is different. You know what I mean?
If you look at
agree to it.
If you look at the creation of like Arab terrorism in the last 25 years, you have to kind of look at this, because I think there's something of the playbook, because there's many examples that, Al Qaeda, for example, the leader of Syria at the moment is Al Qaeda. So didn't Al Qaeda attack supposedly the World Trade Center? Then what are we doing? Shaking hands, like some major general in America is shaking hands with the leader of Al Qaeda, who's now the leader of Syria. And, apparently when ISIS fighters, are injured, in battle over in Syria, they're fixed up in an Israeli hospital. I thought that was, it's just very strange. So, I mean, this whole network of intelligence is a very scary and dark world. And, it's wheels within wheels. And, there are agents, double agents, triple agents, people probably there are people who are agents probably don't even know who they work for themselves. You know what I mean?
Well,
They're
I have
working.
one thing to show you though before we move on from Charlie Kirk. I'll just bring it up because I heard someone was going on about his wife, and I thought, come on. But then I saw this, and I just want to. If you were a director and you were filming this, would you go, "You've nailed it," or would you go, "Let's have another take"?
Our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Wow.
Nail it or another take?
Well, I mean, a lot of this stuff plays out in the right-wing sphere. It plays out, in my view, like a televangelist, kind of thing, which, is a little bit disingenuous because we all know televangelists are often fake and
But
stuff.
is it disingenuous to Americans? Or is it just disingenuous to us? But to Americans, that's like, no, and that's great. You pull,
I mean, I think a lot of stuff on the left feels like we're watching a script. But, sadly,
Yeah.
some stuff on the right, that's always like, you often wonder when are you watching something that's almost like a script. And, there are things Trump does that seem scripted. And there are other things where it's clear that, like the thing he did at the United Nations, where it's like, fuck, he just went up and told them, So, and also, someone like Trump does good things like that, what he did at the United Nations, and he does things that we don't like, which is his support of Israel and a few other things we could go on about. But, there are various things like that. So, someone like that is, he has good side and has bad side, Obviously, the Epstein files.
Dr. Chris here thinks fame is can be Mo Tyler's promise to go down in history of the books. So it's well, look, we're never going to know. So I don't want to go. We never found out who did Kennedy. There's all these things we have to live with. We're never going to know.
Well, he claims he did do it, So I mean, you often wonder if he wasn't the shooter, if he wasn't someone who fired a round, why is he saying he did it? You know what I mean? Like, if it was some, because there were some people. I'm sure you saw there were people doing weird hand movements just before he got shot. Now, I mean, that could be anything. I mean, that could be some security little signal that they do every half hour or hour, just to say, all's well here or whatever. It just happened to coincide with him getting shot. Though it did look suspicious, I have to admit. There are a lot of weird things about the assassination.
Well, the other thing
it could be organic.
A guy told me an army veteran said that's an exit wound, not an entry wound. So you're just going,
yeah. There are lots of different things.
But we're not going to probably ever know, are we? They don't want us
I mean,
to
this
know.
is one of the things, that's really interesting. Like, there's a certain level of ambiguity in all these events, and we just have to live with it. That, it could be, it's possible that it was organic in the sense it is exactly what it appears to be. It could be that they knew he was going to attack and they allowed him to. It could be that they had another shooter who actually shot Charlie Kirk, and then the guy just got on the roof and was like, what? And then he ran because the shot had been fired. But then why wouldn't he shoot another round or something? It's all very weird.
Yeah, that's right.
And there are, various theories that the thing on his chest blew up into his neck. And, who the hell knows? Like it's a page.
Whichever way it is, the one thing I like about Charlie, and I'm trying to do it now, is I'm trying to learn to be a better debater. I liked his style.
You want to be a master debater, as they say on South Park.
Remember the
I understand. I said master. That means good at it.
I'm never going to be a master because I get too pissed off. But I really, and I've been trying. I have been trying. I've had people come up to the bus and I'm in conversation with them, and Anyway, but I want to talk about something else that I saw and you've seen.
Yep.
And I want to talk about movies because Richard is a great movie critic and he's a director of movies too.
Yep.
This is the movie Eddington.
Yeah,
I just saw it the other night, and I won't say what I think of it. I'll say after you. What do you think of this movie, Richard?
Well, I really liked it. It sort of, it took me a while to kind of work out what kind of film it was, and I guess, it's a film that doesn't necessarily, it pretty much portrays the culture wars, which is, the sort of right versus left in America, a kind of a woke, group of people led by, I guess a kind of mayor, and then the right-wing side of things, a guy who's interested in conspiracy theories and who's anti-masks and all that kind of stuff, who's, I guess, of the freedom movement, right-wing kind of vibe. And Joaquin Phoenix plays that character who's the sheriff. And it shows the, the kind of cultural, culture wars, I guess, playing all out in a kind of microcosm of a little town called Eddington, which is like a little Texas, I think it's Texas, a Texan town. And, I thought it was very well done. A lot of whenever you see all this left-wing stuff, you just kind of, you know what I mean? But, it's interesting to see it. And, there's like that guy who, he just wants to sleep with one of the girls who's one of these left-wing woke girls. So he gets into the woke stuff. And then by the end of the film, he ends up being like a Trump MAGA guy. That shows that a lot of these young people will, they will side, if there's a girl they really like who's into the woke thing, they'll be all Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But if there's someone else they find another girlfriend who's a Trump supporter, well, suddenly they're MAGA. So, and this is absolutely, I think, true in the sense that young people will go where, the women even if they're gay, they will go where the women are or, their gay partners are or whatever. They'll follow their ideas, of the people they're attracted to.
Can I ask you, when I was watching it, I was trying to figure out, is this like the first true anti-vaxxer film? Is this what they've actually got? But then it balances this way and balances this way, and then you're going, are they? And then I thought, no, do you know what? I think they're just telling a story. Yeah. And if you take from it, oh, this is an anti-vaxxer film, that's your take. If they take I actually think it was because you did not know where it was going.
Yeah, no,
right,
and like I think he tried.
I have no idea what's going to happen next.
He did try and sit on the fence, even though when you look at we won't spoil the ending, but when you see how things turn out, it's not exactly saying this is whatever. Either way is essentially good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a very interesting filmmaker. He's a Jewish filmmaker. He made a film called something like Heresy, I can't remember. Hereditary, I think it's called. And then he did a film called what's it called? Anyway, he did some film up in Sweden where this girl goes to this weird group of Swedish like hippies who are doing like a Midsummer. It's called Midsummer. And then he did a film called Beau is Afraid, which I really didn't like. It was like 3 hours long and it wasn't much fun. But this, I think, was very interesting. And I think you got to take the hat off to him for the fact that he gave so much screen time to somebody who was anti-vax. And he raised the whole question with the masks. It's about 20 minutes of the film where he's just saying, what's the point? Why are we all fighting with each other over nothing?
Yeah.
He was taking the piss for a lot of the film. He was taking the piss out of the left-wing people, even though he also did take the piss out of the, freedom movement, right-wing people. The filmmaker himself is somewhat, I would call, misanthropic, which means, he hates humanity. I think in some senses. But, he might, he's kind of mocking, humanity from both sides to some extent. But also,
I just want to say, though, I think it's nice that they used me to do his makeup.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is pretty much, very much a you character.
I'm going to get some of those glasses, man.
He was driving around in the car with like all the stickers all over it. I thought of you, mate. When I saw that, I go, "This is Michael." And I liked it. And to be honest, this new film, One Battle After Another, is similar because there are.
Can I just say though, before we move on to that film, because I haven't seen that yet, I actually want to say that I thought Eddington was a masterpiece.
My friend Terry McMahon in Ireland, whose taste I really respect, he loved it too. He thought it was a masterpiece. And
I actually think it's one of the first masterpieces I've seen in a long, long time. Highly original. You'll never know where it's going. Incredibly funny, incredibly moving, and really thought provoking. It's really holding the mirror up to us, and we come across as nuts.
We do. Maybe we are nuts.
Yeah, we are. So
you got to consider that, mate. You always got to consider that.
This other movie, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it. But you've gone to see it.
Yes, One Battle After Another.
One Battle After Another.
It's based on a book by Thomas Pynchon, who is famous for dealing with novels that deal with kind of conspiracy, wheels within wheels. And in one sense, it almost appears like this film is like Antifa, the movie. The first 40 minutes, I was like, doing this to the screen because it's like all this stuff about Black Lives Matter and like fuck the white man. And I wanted to murder the screen. You know what I mean? So it's pissing me off. But then this Sean Penn character, who's like a kind of arch fascist, comes along and he represents the other side, right? And then it begins to kind of like, again, do a kind of, like what they did in Eddington, have the two sides. And, he sort of has some kind of charisma. And he's a member of a group called, this is a funny name, they're called the Christmas Adventurers Club, who is a secret group of white supremacists.
Don't tell us too much. I want to see it.
No, I won't, but they are. That's what they are. And he's a member of this group. And, I won't say any more about them. But, and then it sort of you begin to see these kind of weird worlds. And, DiCaprio plays somebody who's active in a kind of, something like the Beta Meinhof, some kind of, terroristic group who then goes on sort of hide out, has to go on the run and has to hide out after, one event goes very badly. And then, he has a young daughter from this, black woman who he slept with or whatever. And, it has some very interesting sequences. And I'd say you'll probably react to it similarly to how you reacted to Eddington. They're a perfect double feature. And both filmmakers
Can I ask though, do you think that Hollywood now is going to see, hey, these two films, generally low budget in compared to, say, making a Marvel movie, have made a lot of money? And that there might be business in actually
presenting ideas. Yeah.
And
I think that's why, regardless of the faults and the good things and bad things about both movies, is that they are dealing with essentially what you would call, difficult subject matter, politically incorrect subject matter, and they're major movies, and they are
major actors.
There's no Spider-Man bullshit and fucking superhero nonsense. No one's running around a cape. It's dealing with very flawed people on both sides of the political aisle who are, involved in all kinds of mischief. Actually, and they're more adult films.
What is this guy? What is this guy's name here? It's when I bring him up, the bottom guy. I know he's famous. I can't remember. His name.
That's Pascal, Pedro Pascal.
Pascal, yeah. Now
he's like a Mexican. He's in everything.
He's in everything. But initially, he was masked up in this film, and until he took the mask off, I didn't recognize him. And he's in the bar, he's got his mask on. I won't tell anyone this is this amazing scene. And then at one point he takes it off and you're going, oh my God.
And there's an element of like, he's into all the rules and he's into all the masking and everything. And then at one stage, he just steps over it and he threatens him. He threatens the sheriff kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he moves into his space. He's saying, look, I know it's bullshit, but I'm buying into this bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I'm the mayor.
So he represents the kind of Gavin Newsom kind of politician, in a sense, that was brave because it showed someone like that as a hypocrite and, who's, got all various, and he's got this weird son who's all into woke stuff and who's causing trouble. And, I thought it was a very interesting film. The good thing about both films is they are quite adult films. They'll probably be the ones that, the Academy will be talking about, in awards season because, I think that the left has to kind of confront this phenomena of Trumpism, that's taken over the country and that may well rule the country for a long time. I don't know if the left's going to come back federally. It might, at various state levels, have some victories, but it could, the Trump movement, J.D. Vance could continue on and, then one of the Trump family or who knows. But and I think things will change, and you are seeing Donald Trump begin to deploy the military onto, which is of course beautiful, onto the streets of the Democrat cities because I love coups. I almost have a wet accident in my pants when you mention the word right-wing military coup. That's the most exciting 4 words in the English language because that's when the fun really begins, ladies and gentlemen. When all this stuff, come on, let's get to work.
I just got to say too, sorry to everybody. This is made by Ronnie, and so he's put it together. If you like it, get in touch with cafelockdown.com or in the comments. I'll get Ronnie and see if he makes some more because a lot of people like this one at 32. I'm just going to keep going because I want to get to England, but before I do, we just want to have a little bit of a break, and so I wanted to get your ideas on this list. To what order you think this list should be in? And these are I'll just stop the comments for a sec. G'day, Kerry. These are the 5 dumbest things I've done with Florence the Freedom Bus. 1, I filled it full of petrol instead of diesel. I got it bogged up to her axles in Collie, WA. Had to tractor to pull it out. Driving off while still connected to the generator, which is now lost. I didn't realize, so I dragged it. Anyway, it's gone. Getting a 2-meter python stuck underneath her.
That was good, Dad.
Stay tuned. This next one. So, what are your thoughts, people? Of which is the number 1 bad one? Filling it full of diesel instead of petrol. Getting it bogged up to the axles in Collie. That was such an adventure. Although that's how I met Thelm. If you're watching Thelm, that's how we met. Driving off while still connected to the generator. That took me 2 days to admit I'd been that dumb. And getting a 2-meter python stuck underneath her. So let us know what you think. What do you want to start, Richard? You want to start?
Well, I'd go with 3 probably. You know, that's a classic. You know, that's gold. But I mean, as far as like cinematically, 4 is excellent. But it just happens sometimes when you are out bush for a long period of time or driving around.
Well, that was my fault because I actually saved the snake from the road. And it paid me back by hiding under my bus. So
nice. And with the diesel, how do you?
Number 3, not only did I drive off, but a guy pulled me up and said, "Hey, mate, you got a big cord pulling behind your van." I got out, there was the cord. And I went, "Oh." So I rolled up the cord and I thought, "Oh, you idiot, Michael, driving off without the cord." Thank God no one noticed. And then last night, Kelly and I were somewhere. We went to, and we were out of power. And I said, "Go quickly, go start the generator." And she comes back and goes, "Where is the generator?" I'm like, "What?" And then I realized that it wasn't just the cord I was pulling, but somewhere along the way.
That seems to take the cake, you know. How did you clear out the diesel from the engine if you stuck it, you know, what do you do?
Oh, that was remarkable. RAC RACV. They got us on a tow truck, and we had to go to the closest diesel mechanic who would take us. Turned out to be this lovely man. He's unvaccinated, gave up his business because he wouldn't vaccinate his staff, had to move away. Now he works from home, and he just turned up at 4 a.m. He was fixing it. He just drained it all, put it in, off she went and worked like nothing has ever happened. It was actually meeting him that was really lovely. And
kismet.
Yeah, he was really, really sweet. And then after he'd done it all, I was getting my money out. So how much do I owe you, mate? He said, "Mate, I've checked out your work. I'm not charging you anything. You just keep going." It was really so from disaster thinking I've killed the bus at last. I've had a few goes, but now I've really killed her.
Now you've really done it.
Yeah, now I can hear Bill Lober if he's watching going, "Oh," he's the mechanic in Port Macquarie. Anyway, now for this. I heard this the other night, and there's one statement in this about work which just filled me with dread. Here we go. You've probably seen it.
That is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament.
That's all when you see. Now, first, I have one question first. Albanese, that strange-looking Prime Minister in New Zealand, and Starmer.
Canada guy,
can you tell me, you remember when you were in a school and there was always one young person at the front and the teacher would take you out on an excursion, we'd all come back, and one kid would stand up and go, "On behalf of the class, I'd like to thank you, teacher, for..." Remember that? I was never that person.
Yeah, that person. Yeah.
How did those people become the leaders of the world?
Yeah, I know.
Because they're all the leaders of the world now. We're living under their virtue signaling bullshit.
Yeah. Suck up, little fucking goody two shoes.
What are your thoughts on that, Richard? Because I think this is like holy.
Well, I mean, you've got to admire, in a sense, the Machiavellian maneuver of what they've just announced, because they've created a situation where mass immigration is to the point of almost bordering on a civil war, right? In the United Kingdom, they're one or two, if they have another incident where some black immigrant murders 2 or 3 young schoolgirls in the United Kingdom, it's going to kick off seriously over there. So so what they've said is to combat mass immigration, which is it is a kind of very, it's like the thing of Dr. Evil, or, from like, or like Blofeld from a James Bond novel. It's like, to stop this problem we've created, you now need a digital ID, because then, that will stop mass immigration, which is everyone's concerned about, because we created this problem. So now you all have to have a digital ID, which of course is the real slavery, right? You know what I mean? Like, mass immigration is the problem, but having the digital ID will be the beginning of the social credit system that we see it already exists. So, I mean, I don't know if they'll buy it, the people in the UK. They've really had it. And Nigel Farage is on the warpath and could well become the next Prime Minister of the UK. So,
Boris Johnson is against it.
There you go. Even Boris Johnson, he's probably, he's probably got, so many trips to Epstein Island. He's got the frequent flyers, mate.
He can.
But he's, good.
What was that joke you did? Now's the time to do it.
Yeah,
Richard said this just before we were talking, because I'm at a Martin's place, and Martin has some children. We're not going to show them, but I love being here.
Famous Five.
They're terrible kids. They're just
badly behaved.
They're great kids, so we're trying to be nice because the kids are here. But we were.
We could read. I was making a joke. We could read Inner Blyton or something like that. And we said, famous five. I don't know, escape Brexit, but maybe they should escape Epstein Island.
So the famous five.
A new Inner Blyton book. Made for the contemporary audiences.
Let's
get out of here, George.
On Epstein Island.
They're under threat. So there you go.
Read the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, no, I was read to all this stuff, and I mean, some of it, and I mean, I kind of like it. I like it because it's so it's all so politically incorrect. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever looked at this stuff. All this stuff, is every racial, sexual stereotype, all old-fashioned, everything, and it's great. So
back to digital ID though, it's coming here. It's It's pretending because they suddenly really care about our under 16-year-olds. We care so much that when the vaccine came out, in order to protect your 89-year-old completely demented grandmother, we had to vaccinate every child in Australia
with poison.
And now it's the other way. Now, to protect the children from the internet, everybody has to be chained up with digital ID.
Well, one of the things you say to me sometimes, because I think, you probably think that some of my ideas bordering on kind of hate or something like that. And that might to be some extent true, but I find it hard that we are under attack from such a hideous evil, that it's hard not to hate the people who are doing it. You know what I mean? It's hard not to.
Can I tell you something interesting? I don't know if you've thought of this, but there are so many people coming up to me now. This is the biggest conspiracy theorist. And I've heard this from all manner of society. They don't believe humans are behind this because the stuff coming out about fertility, where the fertility rates, the death rates today, the death rates are high. I mean,
AI will be used to take over this agenda, but we're right now in the area where human beings have been controlling this agenda, but moving forward, AI will be guiding this agenda and in conjunction with evil human beings. So, who are now, of course, the ones programming it, like Sam Altman and people like this. It's very interesting. I mean, we are cursed to live in very interesting times, but it's just the level of shocking evil in the world is hard not to,
you're into
kind of hatred
as well.
Of what
is the digital ID the mark of the beast?
Oh, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah. I mean, that's a definite no-no. Like, I don't think it'll work, but it could. And just the level of clever, because the issue of mass immigration. People are putting up the St. George flag, which is a symbol of English nationalism, everywhere in the UK. That country can.
Did you get your
this is the thing about you can take your country back from these people with a serious right-wing revolution, and of course my favorite 4 words, which is right-wing military coup. You can take back your country if your army's on your side. You don't need democracy. You don't need any of this.
Yeah.
And everybody who can puts their wealth together, all these companies like BlackRock who are just putting all the world's wealth together. Well, you find out what country that is their main headquarters, and you take it, everything. you can take it militarily, and then everything they own that they've spent, I don't know, 100 years greedily accumulating, and you can redistribute it along nationalist lines. So everything, all they are doing is they are accumulating the wealth that we are going to take from them. And that's the kind of fucking thing they don't like. It's the kind of thing that, if I was more famous, it would get me shot. But that's what they don't like to hear, because that is what their main concern is. They spent so much time accumulating all this vast wealth, and it can all be taken away from them.
It's interesting. It's not just the mass. I think the mass migration is almost a diversion too, because that's just a part of it. But we've got all through the lockdowns in Melbourne, they were installing the 5G like crazy. And I remember interviewing a woman from England, a delivery driver, who was seen as an essential service, and she was driving all over the UK, dropping off medical supplies. And she said she felt like she was in Lord of the Rings when they were tearing down Fanghorn Forest, because wherever she went, she was just watching forests and trees being taken down so 5G towers could be installed. They're installing them like crazy while we're all locked down. Now we can see why. In China,
they're great myths.
In China, the AI thing is just controlling
nightmarish.
Every single thing you do, they're watching. I mean,
something like Lord of the Rings is a great parable for actually what's actually happening to all of us right now. It's such a great story of light and darkness, good versus evil. One of the things in Lord of the Rings is obviously the orcs, which are these evil goblin creatures that are sent to, essentially invade what it basically means the European countries, which is all the, Middle Earth, all the various, the lands of the hobbits and the lands of the, the giants and the little dwarfs and all that. So, this is all metaphorical for an attack upon Europe that's actually happening right now. This is exactly what's happening. You've got close to 3 or 4 million Muslims living in the United Kingdom, and they're not peaceful, and they are pretty motivated, and they that's dangerous amount of people. And there's been
while we're there, the other dangerous thing about it, and we've seen politicians talk about it with the police leave alone, is the Pakistani groups of men who've been raping white women.
Well, that's a weapon of war.
And it's been going on for a long time. And the police do nothing. I've read reports of fathers who go to the police saying, "My daughter, maybe you should go away."
They do it here. They don't do it here.
There's, my daughter's in this house, and the police do nothing.
Well, people are hacking each other to death in Melbourne. I mean, there's something like 20 or 30 like kids under the age of 20 who are often of African appearance, but they've been killed. And what have our government done to these people? They've released these people. Nothing. All they've done is erect bins, mate, which we'll play a little video I've kind of done on it. But that's all they've done. It's ridiculous. We're in the middle of a chaotic, crime wave, the likes of which Melbourne has never seen. And what do we get? We get a fucking Sulo bin. And it's patently ridiculous. And but this is part of the agenda. Because again, they'll say here, you need digital ID to combat crime. You'll need digital ID.
Yeah.
It's all a stalking horse for this totalitarian digital prison they wish to build. And it's just it's so disturbing and hideous. Where does
Don't
it
they
end?
want the chaos on purpose, though?
Of course.
I mean, if I was going to do chaos,
all the bad things that are
I
happening,
would have a group who are untouchable, who like say the woke, the trans woke. Nothing. I remember when I was talking to my Anna, who transitioned 30 years ago. She says there is no trans community. I've been trans for 30 years. There's no community. We don't meet up and try to take down the world. We don't talk to each other at all. We're very much loners. We do our own thing. So there is no great community where they're coming together, but it's put onto us like there is. And yet and that's how the English ruled India. They put the Muslims in charge as the police force, in charge of the Hindus and the Buddhists, and they were brutal. And that's how they controlled it. So putting a minority who used to have no worth as like, oh my God, here we are, Dan Andrews, there he is with his hand around a trans person, and Jacinta doing the same, like, we really care for you, we're protecting you from the Richards of this world. In actual fact, that's the same thing. It's turning everything up chaos, so people are just exhausted. That's why I think it took me a while to get the conspiracy theories for Charlie, because I was just thinking, really?
Well,
Really
it
now?
was it's essentially a trans shooter because he was dating a kind of furry called Twigs or something.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems legitimate to some extent. I mean, look, I'd say it's probably 50-50. It either is what it appears to be, or somehow,
His
he's been
boyfriend was a
handmaiden.
furry.
Yeah, that's all very
Now let's
strange.
just pretend. I know we're not. I know that it's been both of us have been questioned about it over the years, but we're not. Now we're too ugly. No one cares. But say we were boyfriends and we just got together, and I was a furry,
Yeah.
and you get
You
up.
already
in the middle
are a
of the
furry.
night,
What are you talking
You
about?
get up in the middle of the night to go for a pee, and there I am in my adult-sized kitty litter having a dump.
No,
Now, are
thank
you
you.
going to go and go, now that's liberation? Or are you going to go, I mean,
Well, I mean, it's kind of
how do you
if
date
you
a
read
furry?
Nietzsche, he talks about at the end, at the kind of collapse of civilization, there's a great level of decadence, and I think that's what we're living in. In a sense, that's what's wrong with, I guess, what you call Western culture, European civilization, is that we have ruled the world so intensely for a long time. Probably, you could say the British Empire, which is maybe 500 years old, or you could even go back further to like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, which is 2,000 or 2,500 years ago. We've been ruling the world, at least the known world, for so long that we've become, decadent. And it's not like the first time. This happened obviously in Rome with people like Caligula and emperors like Heliogabalus and all these people and all the various other decadent emperors, of which there are probably about 100 of them. And then you've got all the degenerate popes, which was many, many of them. And then you've got, the Caesar Borgia and all the Borgias in the Renaissance. This has been going on for a long time. And then you've got
Jason.
in like the time of the American Revolution, you've got, all the court of King George the Third, and everybody's dressed up wearing makeup like they're, I mean, it's all very trans and stuff. So this is a cycle that repeats. So we're just back in this weird thing, and something is going to come and sweep it all away, one way or the other. It could be radical Islam, it could be China, it could be Russia. I mean, it could be a nuclear war, or it could be
who knows,
some kind of
right
wing.
Who knows? It's like a Netflix series where you don't know what's going to happen. But what are your thoughts on digital ID about what you're going to do? Because we're going to have a meeting of the Cafe Lockdown crew going, what are we going to do? We're going to not comply, not do it? And so
well, what does that mean? You're not going to be able to,
off the air at the end of Cafe Lockdown? Or do we comply?
So many, I mean, think about it, all the boomers, your people's parents or whatever, they are going to have no idea how to get a digital ID. So basically, when they bring this in, everybody's parents, of which they're all the people who vote for, the Liberal and Labor and everything, how are they going to get on the internet? They're not going to be able to work out how to get a digital ID, not in a million years. So you will be locking out basically everybody over 70, which is still a lot of Australians who are influential and have all the money and all the houses and everything in this country.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
you're going to be pissing them off tremendously. And maybe their kids will work out how to do it for them. But I don't think it will work. But, I don't know. When are they bringing it in? I mean, in Australia?
I think, is it December, guys? I thought it was December. Is it December?
It's fucking ridiculous, But, it's clear that they're moving. They're worried right now. They're worried.
December.
They're pushing all kinds of agendas. There's all this crap about there's going to be some alien spaceship. I've literally seen like 1,000 articles on in my feed going, there's going to be a spaceship come landing in November.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, let's get to that now. I just want to finish on digital ID. So this is the big question we're going to have. I'm going to get the podcasters and I are going to have a talk about it. But I actually, do you know my thing I was saying last night? I think we need to have a nationwide strike. I think we need to go, sorry, guys. We are
a general strike. Yeah. The French do that.
We're Australians. You are constantly ramming things down our throat. We disagree with. You treat us like serfs. Well, country's coming to a stop. I know the Italians are doing
I think a general strike is
doing it for Palestine. Well, do it for your own country. Do it for your own kids.
Yeah, and it's something that left and right could kind of both get together on. Just saying, we're not buying this bullshit anymore. You know what I mean? And this top-down government, stupidity. I guess there would be some people who would go along with elbow, I don't know, there'd be some hardcore Labor people and maybe some, the woke left would maybe side with it. But, I don't know. I mean, you can't allow this,
Well, to tell you the truth, Richard, they tried to bring it in with CEOs of businesses. They told the CEOs of every business in Australia, if you don't sign up for a digital ID, you will have $1 million fine. Remember this? It happened a few years ago. If you're the CEO. And then they dropped it. You never heard about it anymore. And I asked an accountant, what happened? Did it go through? He goes, no. People would not comply.
Yeah,
CEOs just said, go F yourself.
I mean,
And
I
they
don't know a
dropped
single
it.
person who's rushing to get their friggin' digital. I mean, and
No,
I
but
even
what
think
I'm
to some
saying
extent,
is that was just to finish up, but that was a battle. They wanted all the CEOs done, and the CEOs not even working together. They all just said, "No, I'm not doing that,"
Yeah.
and they stopped it and they threw it out. So basically, guys, if you could go a day, 2 days, 3 days, maybe a week, plan for a holiday now and go, "No, I'm not doing it," and just don't do it. Shut everything down.
Yep.
Make them
I
go.
think that's what we have to
What?
do. We need mass
I don't think anything
non-compliance.
else. Marches won't work. Petitions won't work.
No, just don't
Basically, now
comply.
it's the next
Just
level.
don't
Yeah.
comply. Don't participate
Don't
in it. And if
comply.
it means
G'day, Lynn.
getting off the internet, maybe have one person who's gone ahead and done it so they can still, stream your shows or whatever. But
Oh, this is lovely. Look at Lynn. Let's go back for that.
Uh-huh.
Yep, a strike is the only answer. We have to bring the country to a standstill. No work, no shopping. Just stay at home or have street parties.
Correct.
Imagine that. Street parties for a week.
perfect.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Have epic
You
all
know,
over Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, Albo is terrible.
March on the
obviously,
19th too.
Albo is
Yeah.
desperate to have a meeting with Trump, even though Trump's just going to tear him a new arseholes.
Did you
which
see
would be
that
wonderful.
pathetic selfie he did?
I know, it's so sad. You know what I mean?
That selfie was like him going, "Look, he does like
Look,
it.
here I am.
He is
He's
smiling."
desperate. I mean, he's the worst. He's the worst person on the what's it called? Foreign policy. Prime Minister in the history of Australia, without a shadow of a doubt. And remember, he went to Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is just hopeless. They're a country that basically is just, I don't even know how it runs itself. But, they went there to do some deal and it just fell through. You know what I mean? Because obviously they've done a deal with China.
They gave them $600 million to build a soccer team. And that was on because they were using the heads of various tribes as the ball, and they'd eaten them all, so they didn't have ball.
They're cannibals, mate. So
we'll give $600 million. Stop eating your other teammates.
It's crazy.
But we have people living on the streets, families. The homelessness is going through. People are really struggling. All these people are the vaccine injured, which they ignored. They're really struggling. And they're giving $600 million to Papua New Guinea so they can have a soccer team?
It's crazy. And we always talk about, the wealth of this nation. To some extent, we are a wealthy nation. But the fact that most young Australians will never be able to afford a home in this country is just shocking beyond belief. And that, that essentially they'll be serfs, And of course, this ties into this globalist agenda of, you will,
that
own
was my question for you. Yeah. I have a question for you because I was talking to a guy who was he's been very active in the movement a lot, and he said, "Oh, we can't stop it. We can't stop it. There's no way you can stop it." And I thought, imagine telling that in your last days on the planet, say you're in your 90s, and you're telling that to your grandson who's been born into a form of slavery, the likes of which we can't understand. Every single thing is monitored, and this grandson is a part of a group that's fighting back, and they're going to go up against real bullets. They're going to go to gulags because it's all set up, and so they're going to fight for their very lives. Give me liberty or give me death. That's how all these tyrannical things finish.
Well, there's these
young kids. Almost finished. I swear. Yeah, you talk to the Romanians. I remember this Romanian. She said, my 17-year-old boy left, and the mother said, don't go. And the boy said, I'm not coming back unless I'm free or I'm dead. And, well, he wouldn't come back if he was dead. But the thing is, they left, and that was the revolution. So at some point, a revolution will happen against all this. Even in China, it will happen. And so you're saying, oh, there's nothing we can do now. There's nothing you can do now. You're not being shot. You're not being put in gulags. Now is the time to stop it because now you can. You just have to realize you're an important part in history. Otherwise, you're going to just die so full of shame because you are the part of the generation that enslaved the next generations.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to advocate it, but there's obviously these people who are called Blade Runners over in the United Kingdom who cut down these surveillance machines. And, you see this happening all over the world because, why the hell are we being surveilled in every street corner? It's just ridiculous.
Every street corner.
You see these cameras all over. And I remember I was up in somewhere like Albury Wodonga, and there were these cameras every 20 meters on
everywhere, man.
Why Albury Wodonga? Is it like 1984?
Little town. And
see, this is the kind of infrastructure they need. This infrastructure for when they bring in all this digital prison stuff, right? So and you see it all slowly, happening. But while it has been rolled out in a tremendous way, it's still not everywhere. You know what I mean? And I don't know if there was mass sabotage of all these kind of things. Well, what the hell could the government do? Nothing. So you know what I mean? Like when the people rise up against the government, and the government is supposed to serve the people, and it's clearly not serving the people.
They're not. They haven't served the people the whole COVID era.
For a long time.
The stuff that keeps coming out now.
Our politicians
all
have
they've been trying to do is oppress the people by trying to silence or persecute or cancel anyone who stands up to them or questions the narrative, which is like us, Richard. When
of course, I mean, they always, they various names people apply. You're this, that, and the other, and it's the only thing we tend to be is correct usually. I mean, not all of us about everything, but the surprisingly correct how we've been. And then you see interesting things. Always popping out, RFK in the Trump administration. Obviously, he's somebody who's sympathetic to a lot of what we talk about on these shows, the anti-vax movement and, things that cause autism. There's the whole thing about Tylenol. And then, all the woke people start taking bottles of Tylenol, which, of course, kills them. You know what I mean?
God, did you see that? Paul was talking, Dr. Oosterhouse was talking about it last night. There's a woman in America who's 25 weeks pregnant, and she took a whole bottle to prove Trump is wrong. And now she's dying. They can't save her. It's destroyed her.
That's it.
She's dying and the baby's dying.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's basically paracetamol. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe
did you see that meme where they get Trump goes out and says, "Don't drink piss. It's bad for you." And so
even Tylenol says, "Don't take Tylenol when you're pregnant." You know what I mean? So, there's obviously something to it. I personally think it is, the extensive vaccine regime that young people, obviously when we were younger, I don't know how many we had before the age of 10, but it was something like 8 or something. It was like just like a couple in grade 6.
Polio.
Yeah, there you go. It was like there was maybe 8 to 10 of them before you were 10. But now there's like something.
We went overseas, so they gave us a load then. But can I go back? There was something else I wanted to ask you. There's it just my thing.
Slipped your mind. It slipped your mind.
It'll come back. No, it's important going on. But yes. Now people don't know, but you have studied extensively history of politics.
Yep.
Now all these people are saying Trump's fascist. Explain to me what a fascist actually is for people to know the official term.
Well, I mean, it's actually the only major political theory to come out of the 20th century. It was invented by Benito Mussolini officially, but Benito Mussolini was inspired by a guy called Gabriele D'Annunzio, who was an Italian warrior poet who took over a place called Fiume, and with a kind of military, right-wing military coup, which is my favorite word. And he did that kind of thing in this town, and it was just bizarre because it was, in some senses, it was very conservative or, militaristic, what you would traditionally know as fascism. In other senses, it was incredibly sexually free and people were taking drugs and, doing all kinds of, so it was like a strange libertarian exercise in freedom. And obviously, Mussolini was sort of inspired by this. There's actually a new series, I think it's called Mussolini, Son of a Century, that examines these ideas. So this was a political movement, because you've got capitalism, right? And then you've got communism. And obviously, we sort of know what those two things are. And then in the 20th century, there was felt there was a need for a third political movement that combined elements of capitalism and some socialist ideas, but to combine it with nationalism, right? Which is kind of that each country in the world has the right to protect its own people and to build a national community. To protect that community. For example, if you're Italian, it would be to protect the Italian people. If you're German, it's to protect the Germans. If you're English, it's to protect the English. You can go to non-Western countries. If you're Japanese, you protect the Japanese culture. And obviously Japan was fascist during World War II. So, it was a third ideology.
Did the Japanese take it from Italy?
Well, all these right-wing nationalist fascistic movements, they arose in all around the world between the World War I, which ended in 1919, and then until when Second World War began in 1939. You get Mussolini, you get Hitler, you get Franco in Spain, you get Salazar in Portugal. You get Romanian fascism, you get all the Eastern Europe countries, and then of course you have communism. I mean, some people have said to what extent Stalin was quite nationalistic. Stalin displayed fascistic qualities to do with his nationalism towards believing in the Russian people, and he would justify various things that he did that were bad by saying, well, he was protecting Russia, and Mao did this too. Mao, to some extent. Even communist dictators have inserted nationalism into ideology. For example, I visited Cuba when Castro was still alive. It was around 2010. I went there,
Wow, man.
and it's very nationalistic. To some extent, he was extreme nationalist.
Would you explain nationalistic to? Would you explain nationalistic?
Well,
It's
nationalism is when you believe your country is your country, and you know what I mean, and that comes first. It's like the national community. It's like your family. You've got your real family, but then there's another larger family that we're all part of, right? In Australia, we're all Australians, right?
Yeah.
And there are people who've been here, longer, who are ethnically European, who built this country, who are settlers, right? In a sense, we tend to be the ones who are more nationalistic than, say, somebody who just arrived from India 5 years ago. But there are people who do come from foreign countries, or who've come in the last 20 or 30 years, who come here and like our values and are I'm not somebody who thinks those kind of people should not be allowed to be part of the nationalistic fervor and revolution that our country is going through. I mean, that August 31 thing was a nationalist, outpouring of support. So this is nationalism to me is the most powerful politics on earth, because when a country really embraces nationalism, it can do anything. And I mean, for example, someone like that guy Fink, who runs BlackRock, you just send in a military division under a national national takeover, and you just say, listen, Mr. Fink, here's the 3rd Airborne, like in Apocalypse Now. We're taking everything. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Nowhere. Can't go anywhere. Can't go
What
to
about?
Switzerland. We're not
Can I
letting you out of
ask
the
you
country.
another thing? As we're going up, they've got this bed tax now. If you have a bedroom that's not being used, you have to pay a tax, right?
Mhm.
That's what they're trying to bring in. They're bringing it in England. They're trying to bring it in here too. My thing is, how are they going to know? Are they going to get people
Bedroom
to go
tax.
door to door
Yeah, it's crazy.
and actually go, we've been given the right to enter your property with or without your permission, to check how many rooms you've got and how many people sleeping? How are they going to know that your spare room is actually spare and you don't have someone in it, an auntie or someone? How they're only going to know is to actually visit and knock on your door and
What's funny is the people who are calling people fascist are behaving more fascist than the people who actually say they're fascist. You know what I mean? Like,
that
people...
goes to Tasha's. Tasha did a thing here. I was going to star it.
So that's kind of interesting, that they're getting so nervous.
It's strange because I see the left wing as fascist nowadays. Am I wrong?
No, I think that's correct. It has become,
Thanks, Tash.
And also communistic, fascistic. Those words can be used as pejoratives, like as insults. And then, but you can go back into the ideology of both. Fascism, in a sense, arose as a kind of reaction to communism and Marxism. There were a group of, people in Europe, and it was sort of influenced by philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and stuff, that they,
like
they really
communist
hated.
light?
They thought, well, no, they really hated communism to the point of almost, insanity, almost. Like they really, really hated everything about communism. But they understood that the communists were using a kind of brutal, how would you describe it? A brutal, power, desire for power, right? And they thought, well, we're going to take that brutal desire to grab power, but we're going to use it for the opposite ends, which is, to protect the nation, to protect the people, to protect the church, to protect the family, very traditional ideas, and this is a lot of the major right-wing fascist dictators would go on about these things, and they would be socialistic. They would be socialistic in their approach to the economy. They would say to wealthy people, look, you can do well, you can be millionaires, but we're not having billionaires or whatever. Once your company makes a certain amount of money, you're gonna, that money, like someone like Elon Musk, they would say to him, look, you can make $1 billion, but after that, your other 100 billion or whatever it is you have, that's going towards the national community. That will solve homelessness, which of course it would. And of course to that, so many people who are libertarian say, that, to some extent fascists are kind of communistic, or they are to some extent socialistic. What they're attempting to do, it's a kind of, dialectics, right? You've got capitalism and materialism. The problem with both of those ideas is they're both materialist. And, the fascism, which is called the third path, that is more spiritual. It's more interested in religion, nation, romantic ideas, mythology. You know what I mean? We're not interested in facts. We're not interested in any of that anymore. We want power, and we'll do anything to achieve it, and we'll do it mythologically, and it'll be romantic. It'll be like the ancient days of like chivalry, and like in Lord of the Rings, where we ride out to defeat the orcs. That's what we're interested in. And to some extent, it's anti-logical. It's it's not, it's emotional. It's like right from the heart, man. Like it's not
So
something.
can I ask you, Richard?
It's
when
irrational.
It
It's irrational. That's right. It's irrational.
When Mussolini first brought it in,
Yeah.
where did people automatically against it, or was it actually for a period? Did it actually Italy flourish?
Well, I mean, Italy did tremendously well under Mussolini. I mean, his only major mistake was probably hooking up with Hitler. He did very, very well. His regime for 20 years. Remember, it started around 1921, 22.
No, I don't know anything about Mussolini, really. So
It started around he did a thing called the March on Rome, which is which is where a group of people, like protesters, like you saw in England, just decided to, maybe they started up in Manchester and they said, well, we're marching to Buckingham Palace. And by the time they got to Buckingham Palace, like half the country had joined the march, and they just said, we're taking over the country. And then they did. And, I mean, these great, these things happen.
Maybe that could work here.
Well, there you go. And you've got, these kind of things happening in, you obviously had the Russian Revolution, which was like the left wing, a major thing. But, as soon as the revolution happened, then people like Trotsky and Lenin began murdering people and putting them into gulags and things. And, there's the terror and all these different things, that happened after, a tremendous amount of horrible things happened. Obviously, there's been bad things that have happened after every major revolution. Mussolini, began to throw some of his political enemies. For example, if Trump were to really become a fascist, he would, he has beginning to deploy the military, which I'm sure the left wing know is a sign that it's possible. It's possible. He could just go, you know what? We don't need elections anymore. We're good. And by the way, all those people who don't like me, we're rounding you up. And what are they going to do? If the military sides with him, what are they going to do? They can, fight back, but good luck with that. And so that is fascism, right? If that happens, but it hasn't happened yet. But it is possible. It could happen. But it might not be the Trump.
Well, we know from history that anything's possible.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's the excitement of the moment right now, because we're playing off the deck, because either we know where we're headed with the globalists, right? We're heading into a digital prison, which is already exists in China. And, we don't know how long that situation, it might last 1,000 years in China. It might be forever. They are already, you can't do anything wrong, and they clearly want to bring that to, all the Western countries. And they're moving on it right now because they're nervous, because nationalism can destroy them. Okay, definitely can. You've got to read a history book. And it's not like it even began way before. Like Napoleon was a nationalist, early nationalist leader who rose in the wake of the French Revolution. France was in total chaos, so a strong general came along and said, "Fuck all this," you know what I mean? And he just began sorting people out left, right, and center. Circular firing squad, mate. That's how you do it.
Warren Buffett has a friend, Charlie somebody. I can't remember his name.
I hate that with cunts like that. They're the first to go against the wall. They're the first to go against the wall, in my opinion.
Yeah, but what he said, which was really interesting, he was going, what's happening now is bureaucracy. A country is born, it gets wealthy, and the bureaucracy grows. I hate that word. And
that's also happened in ancient Rome.
But he says what happens, it becomes so big that everything screws up and everything's been held back. Like in Australia now, the permit system, trying to get a business up, it's just everything stifles innovation. Everything stifles entrepreneurialism. And funnily enough, when you speak to people from communist countries, like say Dr. Borchos, he says what happens in communist countries, like you couldn't exist there because say you set up the Hellfire Club, no one does anything like that because you're just motivated to do nothing.
You wouldn't. Yes, I
You
understand.
just do the least you can, just so the government leaves you alone, and you just do it. And so the country just grinds to a halt, but
Yeah.
and that's what I'm seeing here. They're making it so we
I'm
could be
also attracted to,
flourishing if the
you know,
government would get out of the way of entrepreneurs.
exactly. I mean, I am quite attracted to what's also libertarianism, which is a lot of the,
Yeah, me
the
too.
political philosophy that underlies the freedom movement. So in a sense, it's almost a duality. I'm interested in right wing, fascistic ideas and libertarianism, and in a sense, it's dialectical. There's a kind of dialogue that goes on because you don't want to go too far in one direction. You don't want to, you don't want, to be living in a kind of police state that's run by a sort of Gestapo. No one wants that. You want to maintain liberty. That's the whole point of having a national revolution, is to maintain that. And obviously, to some extent, the liberal world order had maintained a certain level of libertarian freedom that we've all lived in most of our lives since the end of World War II. But it's now moving into something else, and that's why you are seeing actual real opposition. And you have, I guess, two main options, which are the right-wing solution that I've discussed, and also there is the left-wing one, which is to move towards communism, to move towards, that kind of thing, radical Marxism, I mean, we should get a radical Marxist on here and have a debate one night because they have interesting ideas, as well. I mean, for example, the philosopher Gramsci, who was imprisoned by Mussolini, he had a lot of very interesting ideas, that I...
Can you tell us what?
Well, one of the things he said that politics is downstream of culture. That was Gramsci, and that means you have to have a kind of cultural. You have to kind of have a cultural revolution in the sense that, like, the ideas, have to seep into culture. Which is why I like to talk about all this right wing stuff, because it needs to sit in the back of people's minds before anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like, it can't just pop out of nowhere. You know what I mean? People have to understand that nationalism can change the face of the planet. You know what I mean? Like, you can have an entire global revolution, the likes of which the world has never seen. And we can all be back on top again. You know what I mean? Like, Western countries can be back on top again. We can lead the world and we can do it benevolently. But you just have to, get that idea in your head, and you need to read history and blah, blah, blah. And, don't just look back at recent history, World War I and World War II. Go back to Napoleon, go back to, the Renaissance, go back to ancient Rome. Look how for example, Rome is interesting because Rome went from a republic to an empire. And we're there now.
I'm going to stop you there, Richard, just for a sec, because let's have a pee break. I'm just going to play. This is from Richard's show, Tiger Mountain.
There you go.
Just go put it in the back. Have a look at this, guys. It's about the machete bin.
Yeah.
And
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Melbourne Machete Massacre. Yes, it's the report from Tiger Mountain. We're going to talk about machetes. Stick around and listen.
Don't tell me again what Tiger Mountain means.
I will. I'll tell you about that.
We've got the machete problem here in Melbourne, and now in a moment of deep philosophical thought, Jacinda Allen has sat down and thought, "How am I going to solve this problem?" You've got people out there on the street with machetes and hacking away at people in malls, gyms, smoke shops. What am I going to? And it's like God. I think God might have gotten involved. His hand reached down from the heavens and placed the idea into her head that you're going to have bins, rubbish bins, where people can take their machetes. And obviously, everybody who's attacking people with machetes out there is going to think, hang on a minute, there's a bin. I mean, there's a bin specifically for machetes. Now I can just go and throw my machete away and be one with, with God and being and everything. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's problem solved, pretty much. You know what I mean? As we all know, as soon as there's a special bin for machetes, that's it. The problem's over. Nothing more to worry about. Because anybody who was using a machete would instantly think, my God, there's a bin. They couldn't use a normal bin to throw away their machete if they wanted to. They couldn't just take it to a Brotherhood of St. Lawrence one, just chuck it in there if they were thinking of giving up the machete lifestyle. No, they need a special bin for their machetes, and you got to go to a police station, which I'm sure these people who are criminals are quite happy to walk up with their machete and just chuck it in there. You know what I mean? So this is pure logic. Now, obviously there have been some people on the right, and probably myself included, who thought, well, maybe there is another idea. How about this? When people hack away at someone with a machete, maybe they chop an arm off or, seriously injure somebody, or they're wielding one around, why don't you chuck them in jail? you know, and they go before the judge, and he says, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's this stuff here? Chop someone's arm off with a friggin' machete. That's, I think, 5 years in jail. You're 14, 15. Okay, well, the juvenile detention or whatever the hell it is. That's the old-fashioned way. Obviously, that's no longer in fashion. The clear answer anybody will tell you is just to have a bin, a special bin, so that way the criminals will pretty much like Jacinda Allen. They'll be sitting at home with their machete laid out on their table, and like God will reach out and think, quickly, take it to the bin, and that will solve the problem, and that's the end of the problem. So machetes aren't a problem anymore. Obviously, machete crime is something new in Victoria, and I don't know where it comes from. It obviously has nothing to do with the fact that machetes are a regular, thing to be seen in Africa, where people are macheting each other over there for many, many years, ever since we gave them a machete, probably 100 years ago, 150 years ago. They've been, murdering each other with that. Maybe we should chuck a few bins over there in Africa. Who knows? Maybe this idea is so good we could export it to Africa and solve the African machete problem. Because obviously, the problem we're now having with machetes has nothing to do with mass immigration and the fact that people are importing their desire to hack each other to death with machetes. So there we go. That's the report from Tiger Mountain this week. Obviously, the machete problem is now solved, and hallelujah.
Oh, dear. I think I was on fire with that one.
That is gold, man. That's hilarious.
Someone said I should do stand-up.
How's it doing? I've downloaded it, so I might re-upload it. Now, as I'm uploading it, tell me, why do you call it Tiger Mountain?
Why do I call it Tiger Mountain? Well,
because from a producer's point of view, I wish you wouldn't, because I got a better idea. But what I'm really,
you want to call it Wolstencroft, something like that? Well, sure, yeah, great. But look, I think I got the name originally. Probably David Thrustler had a book called "The Report from Iron Mountain," which was a kind of document that was leaked in the late '60s, and it basically said it was like a globalist document where they said we must maintain a kind of perpetual war. And to keep the populace docile and to make money, and that we should always just make excuses. And when we don't have an excuse for war, we need to create one. Like if a war ends, we need to create a group of terrorists to make us justify the next war or whatever. So it's this kind of document that came out, and then it was so controversial that some comedian put his hand up and said, "Oh, I wrote it, but it wasn't true." So it's apparently meant to be a fake document, but it appears that maybe that was a cover story, that it wasn't a fake document, that it was a real document. So it was called The Report from Iron Mountain, and then I was reading.
I know about this. Yeah,
a book called Riding the Tiger by Julius Evola, who is he was a fascist thinker who was connected to Mussolini. So he believed that in a philosophy called Riding the Tiger, which is like thinking the most dangerous thoughts, being kind of romantic and warrior poet kind of vibe, and he had this whole philosophy called Riding the Tiger, and then there was also something to do with vague communist stuff, like Tiger Mountain is connected to like Maoism and things like that. So I don't know. I just thought the report from, and I live on a hill, so this is Tiger Mountain where I live. So I just thought that's it. Report from Tiger Mountain. That's where it came.
Well, I've said it before.
Yeah.
I have heard you. I've said it before. You have the best name, man. Wolstencroft. I can see it across the screen.
Well, I've been waiting for the call from Sky News to say, look, Andrew Bolt's taken the vax, and
good luck with that.
He's come down with something, and I'd love to just get on one of the networks. I mean, it doesn't have to be Fox; it could be anyone really. But I mean, who would put me?
Oh, well, I was on Channel 9 recently.
There you go.
They or Channel 7. They filmed the march, and I was at the front holding up the thing. I said, "Oh, there I am."
Beautiful. Yeah, but, it would be tremendously popular if you were at mainstream. Obviously, I've been working with Sam Newman. I mean, doing some kind of show where you get all kinds of people like that. Get them on and talking. People would be fascinated by it because we have so many fascinating guests. Obviously, you have many fascinating guests here. We have a lot of great guests on You Can't Be Serious, and people just love talking. And it's so great to talk. Without worrying about political correctness, and where people can talk openly about what they're actually thinking and saying. It's refreshing, and look, just that itself will defeat this globalist desire to take over the world, and we probably won't need these more radical solutions that one I talk about, or the communist solution, or whatever. These kind of more radical politics will probably end up staying in the background if we can all talk to each other, which is what Charlie Kirk was about. That's what Charlie Kirk was about.
Yeah, we're still being censored. Like Facebook the other day said 1 minute they were giving us awards saying we're increasing your reach, and then after Charlie Kirk died, one of the posts, which I think it just said, if you're going to silence free speech with a bullet, you're going to need more bullets because we're all Charlie Kirk, and so
Yeah, look, there's no doubt.
they gave us restrictions. So today, we only have Twitter. Twitter is saving us. We only have. I'll tell you, this is the numbers. So on Cafe, one of the Cafe lockdowns, 2 people are watching. It's just we've gone from this to that, and this is how they're doing it. This is the other thing too. I don't know if you've seen this, but do I have? Here it is. Have you seen this? Because this is scary. And we'll probably finish with this.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, and I want to do a quick update about a document that got passed by the United Nations this weekend called the Pact of the Future document. It's 2 parts, one on science and technology and one about the youth and future generations. It is quite egregious, and it was done by a procedure called the silence procedure, which makes it a pact. And if no one objected, it is automatically adopted and put into the record as being completely adopted. This is the World Health Organization's runaround, or end around. Since they were not able to get the World Health Organization treaty passed, they decided to take it to the General Assembly. And it is even more egregious than what the World Health Organization was wanting to get passed. Let me just read you something really quickly about what is inside of this pact that is now being accepted by 193 nations around the world and equally open-armed accepted by our current administration. Everyone, it says that this is the power structure fully digital and maximized for the control of the masses. Everyone will be expected to have a biometric digital ID that marks them not just as citizens of an individual country, but as a global citizen. So anytime you hear global citizen or anytime you hear sustainability, think that this is an egregious thing that's happening at the level of the World Health Organization and the United Nations. Anyone that has a dissonant opinion will be labeled as misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, and
or cafe lockdown.
memory hold. Perpetrators for unapproved information will be fact-checked and punished by the system, which will be operated and enforced by artificial intelligence. Punishments will include being locked out of one's bank account, being unable to make certain purchases, unable to get on an airplane, on a subway, drive on public roads. This is the future, according to the world's self-appointed overlords at the United Nations. These are unelected bureaucrats that are making decisions about our country, our sovereignty around the world. Nothing could be more important at this point in time than to get prepared. Have water, food, digital access, flashlights.
She goes on and on. But what I'm going to say is, though, that is the social credit score system.
Of course, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, the curtain's coming down, mate. And you haven't got long to wriggle off it. You've got about 10 years, I reckon. I reckon it'll be decided.
I reckon it's quicker. I reckon the reason they're pushing in England now.
It's happening now. So, you either got to rise up now and reject it, and to you might need some fire to to really throw this off, because they've been, as we well know, we've discussed it and documented what these people are up to, and they're in the final stages of their plan, but we wriggled off the hook of COVID to some extent. That didn't go exactly according to plan for them, and in the background, nationalism is rising, and when it rises enough, it will smash the entire global world order, and everything that they have accumulated for themselves, we will take everything.
Yeah,
trillions of dollars. You've got
to wonder why. You have to wonder why the young would even do it. Why should the young just go forward? What's in it for them? Well,
I'd like to control BlackRock, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I'm just getting this.
We'd have a lot of fun with a few $1 trillion. You know, I mean, you could transform the entire planet.
No. I mean,
You'd
the
solve
young.
world
Why
hunger for a
would
start.
the young
You'd solve
go
world
ahead
hunger.
with this?
You would end all wars. You would end all wars. You would go. Let's go to Mars. You'd say, "Here's $1 trillion, Elon Musk. Let's go. Let's all go to Mars. Let's all."
So you think we'll all end up wearing lycra like on Star Trek?
That's what we need. We need to move towards some kind of
What,
I mean,
you want to wear lycra?
well, not necessarily lycra. I would probably perform a Darth Vader. I'd probably walk around in one of those kind of Darth Vader-y kind of things. Maybe if I could take the helmet off at night, it could be a bit cumbersome. I don't want to wear a mask all day long. But yeah, Darth Vader, that could be it. Maybe Davros, drive around.
All right. I'm going to, but I want you to do something I've never seen you do.
What?
Right? Have you, tell me, if you can, a joke.
Joke? Well, most of the jokes I know are terrible, and I'm an expert in racist jokes. What do you? I think I can tell them because I don't want to be cancelled for the fucking 100th time.
We're way past that.
I love racist jokes because I believe they bring people together, particularly when you're able to make a racist joke in front of somebody of another race and they laugh. And then you laugh too. That's actually camaraderie. That actually means that we don't give a shit about this. We're equal, whatever. So, I think this whole thing that racist jokes are bad.
Well, the Irish put up with that for years.
Yeah,
I mean, Irish jokes were racist jokes, really. They were common knowledge,
Yeah.
One of the little kids told me an Irish joke today. I thought, that's hilarious.
I do know a joke. You want a joke? I do know a joke. You might.
Yeah, go ahead.
This joke. And okay, it's like there's like a Frenchman, an Englishman, and an Aussie have been captured in Papua New Guinea by cannibals. During World War II, their plane has crashed, and the cannibals say, "Look, you've got, we're gonna feed you, and then we're gonna fatten you up a bit, and then we're gonna eat you, and then we're gonna make a boat out of your skin and sail on the lake with it, And so he says, "You're up first, Frenchie." And so the Frenchman says, hello, Mr. Frenchman. God bless, Jean-Luc, whoever, and vive la France. And then he gets chucked in the pot. You know what I mean? And then they say to the Englishman, okay, you're next for the pot. He says, God bless His Majesty and God save the Queen. And in the pot he goes. And then the Aussie says, before I get in the pot, I just want to say, could I just borrow a fork? And so someone brings him over a fork. And then the Aussie goes, bang, 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 all over his body. And goes, there goes your fucking boat.
That's old. It's still, isn't it interesting how these old jokes? I mean, somewhere somebody came up with that, and without any internet.
Bob Hawke told that joke.
Yeah, but do you know, like when we were young, you'd go to a barber's and it'd just be those jokes, one after another all day. You go to work. Yeah. And you'd be on a staff I remember being a waiter when I was young, and you'd sit down and it'd be a joke fest. And it was almost like a comic competition between them. They were always really, really, really fun. I've just got a plane going over.
Yeah, I think humor's a huge.
Without the internet, these jokes would spread across the country because I was still traveling the country then. And you go to Tasmania and you'd hear a joke that you just heard in WA. The jokes.
Humor's a great weapon
somehow.
Against all this bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
really don't need these ridiculous governments telling us everything what to do. And I think Australia
leave us alone.
left to its own devices,
fix the roads and F off.
Exactly. Yeah. Australians left to their own devices will reject this.
Fuck.
Are we going to be herded in? And so we're about to be herded in, and now's the time just to say no. And if we have to, disconnect from society for a while, and a general strike is a very great idea, and a general strike is a left-wing idea, and I will give a nod to the Marxists and the lefties, because a general strike is a damn good idea, and right-wingers can go on a general strike as much as left-wingers. So, and I don't think there should be all this fighting, between left and right. There are radicals on both sides. But really
that's what's happening in England.
Yeah.
I've got a guy, Shillix. I'm trying to get hold of him to come on. I'm just trying to find a time to do it. He told me he's going to marches and he's seeing the trans work with the Tommy Robinson people. He says
exactly.
So they tried to separate us to get this thing through, get the whole country divided so they can just get digital ID through. But the people aren't stupid and they're actually coming together.
And you've got someone like Conor McGregor over in Ireland. You know, I mean, the way that Ireland is being, overrun with immigrants.
He'd be a great prime minister.
He would be great. And the Irish people have never been a colonial people. They've never been, there's no Irish Empire or whatever. They've been a people who've been oppressed for many years by the English. So there are people that have suffered tremendously, the potato famines, and they've been genocided by,
in the potato famine, the English were taking the harvest back to England.
Yeah, I know.
There was other food. They basically, the English starved the
and what's incredible is really the Irish and the English now. And what's funny is I know many people.
Famine then, it was a genocide.
I know many people from Ireland who went over who actually were people who were connected to the whole Irish Republican movement, which basically, let's be honest, is the IRA. They're going over to join Tommy Robertson. So you know what I mean? There's something going on. People,
man.
And because if they fought for 500 years against the English, how do you think they could fight against this mass immigration thing if they wanted to?
Yeah.
Because that was nationalism.
The other interesting thing I've got to say that I can't get my head around is how the English police can live with themselves going round to the house of, say, old people in the middle of the night and arresting them for a meme.
No, there's
I don't know how they can live with themselves.
That came recently. It was like a white cop and a Pakistani female police woman, and they're knocking on some.
No, there was two women.
Yeah, that's right. Two women, right, in their late 20s or whatever, and they'll say, "We need to talk to your daughter." She liked a post. She liked a
post.
She liked the Tommy Robertson post or something like that, and liked one like, and they're there. I mean, that goes to show the desperation. You know what I mean? Because you can't.
But how can they do it? I mean, the money can't be enough. They must actually believe it that there's somehow.
Well,
I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
It's been fantastic. I'm going to go out with my song again. Your thing's already been posted on Instagram and stuff with your thing. So
thank you,
that's
mate. Always
that's a great thing. It's
good
hilarious,
to chat to you, and it's good to see you again, mate.
But I am going to go out with a joke too. I've got a joke.
Let's see your joke.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Net zero.
That's it. It's a joke.
See you guys.
Bye.
I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. To spell that out, you will not be able to work in the United Kingdom.
My father did everything they told him to, lined up and took every single jab, and every time I'd beg him, Dad, please just think, he'd just laugh and call me crazy. We spread his ashes at his favorite park. I have to say I thought I was out of tears until his sister whispered into my ear, my love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to our weeping years. Tanya was a nurse working in the bush. She didn't want to get herself, but because she loved the people out there, she decided to take a chance. Now she's going through a metamorphosis because Pfizer gave her multiple sclerosis. Now she lives with her mother in the city like a ghost, watching us all forget her. And while she is still too angry for tears, all I could hear in her burning eyes was her broken heart warning me, my love, welcome to our weeping years. Welcome to the weeping years. No one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. If vaccines are safe and effective, then you must be the thing that's wrong. You're not worthy of state recognition. You're not worthy of any compensation. Not even worthy of a human singing your song. She was 92 and dying in a nursing home, and because her family said no to the took matters into her own hands. After dark, she would break into the home and sneak down the corridors like a thief. And while the cares were all watching TV, she would climb in bed and spoon her grandmother. She would get into her breath and spud and spoon. And even now I can see them there, huddled together like babes lost in the woods, as we in our endless madness, hurricanes around them, as our madness hurts. Oh, can't you hear our gods whispering? If you guys don't find a way to conquer fear, then you're just gonna keep traveling down deeper into the weeping years, deeper and deeper and deeper into the weeping years. No one is allowed to talk about it. Take all your pain and keep it to yourself. Look around at all these tumultuous years, for lying has replaced the truth. And the one lie that they need to you to sell to your children is that their system cares for you.
You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.